Here it is, the first speaker, Andrea Magni, Embarcadero MVP, computer engineer, and of course, Delphi developer. I can say that Andrea is my friend, and I think he's a famous person in our Delphi development world. Hi, Andrea.
Hi. Hi. Nice to be here.
Great. Okay. And today we will discuss with Andrea verbally such subjects. Why is mobile development so crucial and important for the business? Let's start from the general question. I think that a lot of conversations about the subject and from the, let's say, from the theoretical point of view is clear why this mobile application is important for the business. But you're like a practical guy. Can you share with us your experience with maybe some real examples?
Sure. Well, having a mobile app today is quite a necessity for almost every business, starting from small companies or startups. And it is also a need for well-recognized brands and already available products like software that are being under development for decades. I can say from my own experience as a consultant that many of my customers started with general software for business for their own customers and the like, and they developed many features over a few decades. It's like 20 years products and the like. Then suddenly the final customer came with a demand for a mobile application, and when something comes directly from the customer, it means it is important for software developers. I mean, if your customer is asking for a mobile application, it means that there's an actual need for that. And it happened, in my experience, in many different scenarios. So you can spot very close application targeting a specific aspect or a specific business, something that can even be only in one single company and used only by their employees. And that application nonetheless becomes very crucial for the core business of the company itself. So that's an important aspect. Mobile applications today are a tool for companies to go ahead with their business, to keep up with their organization, their internal processes, and so on. That mostly because the way we as humans are working today is changing a lot because of mobile applications. We are more and more using devices all the time. These devices can help us in many tasks in our regular work. And so having a demand for a mobile application is just a reflection of how the work day is changing for most people. And that's it. On the other hand, companies tend to provide services against an audience that can be wide if it's a public application, and it can even be a global audience. I mean, if I have a company that is selling some products, having a mobile application is a good way to go global, because the application stores are actually global. So if you publish an application on the Google Play Store, on the Apple App Store, then you can reach people from everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And what can you suggest for the people who are only desktop developers? How can they start developing applications for mobile devices using Delphi?
One big step that they have to do in order to achieve a success in building mobile application is to switch from a mentality of client-server application to distributed applications. it's a huge step, because they, especially if they are experienced developers, they may have spent decades learning how to build client-server applications, and now the change is that it is difficult to have a local server for a mobile application. The distribution of a mobile application is different because it goes through the stores mostly. It's not so mandatory, but it is more or less.
But from another point of view, it will help to deploy the applications.
Sorry?
But in other case, it will help to deploy the applications and increase audience because it's easier for them.
It's easier, and it's one way for all, or at least for 50% of devices with Google, and the other 50% with Apple, more or less. So yes, of course, it's on one hand, it's easing the process of deploying applications because you don't have to care about many different systems. But on the other hand, you have to learn the rules, and you have to be very smart with stores, and you have to understand the cycle. So if you need to publish an update, you need to understand that not all your clients will be updated at the same time. You may have to challenge things like having more different versions of client application running at the same time against maybe the same backend, and that can be a problem. So you need to balance a lot of new things that you were much more in control when it was about client-server development. At least that's my general opinion. And well, of course, you should learn how distributed systems are built, and REST, of course, is the fundamental building block.
I agree. Guys, maybe you have something that you want to add to Andrea's words?
Wagner, do you want to say something? Because I can say something. I always have something to say. So I'm trying to be a good boy. Be quiet. I think I'll say something then. I think my observation is that the thing about mobile is that it is impossible to ignore. It is, in fact, essential mostly now as a developer to have an understanding of mobile, even if you aren't writing mobile apps. But the great thing about Delphi is that it actually makes it very easy to take your skills as a developer who's developing desktop programs with that language and then adapt them to work with mobile. And I actually don't use the app stores. I write iOS enterprise apps. I do some Android apps as well, but my customers download their apps via a link on a web page. So they go to a web page on their iPhone, and they can click on a link, and it will allow them to download the app directly onto their iPhone. That's a difference between an enterprise app and a public consumer app. You can have private app stores, and you can distribute them via something called MDM or some other technologies, but the customers that I work with prefer to do it via the web page. But if you're not at least prepared to look at mobile apps, then you're going to at some point limit what you can do. It's really not difficult. Actually, mobile apps are easier in some ways than desktop apps because the mobile devices can't do a lot. They're quite small and they haven't got a lot of memory, and mobile apps tend to only have a few limited screens. So that's my takeaway from that. And it's only FireMonkey. Once you learn the FireMonkey framework, off you go. It's not too difficult.
Yeah, exactly. If guys, anything else, or we can go further?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I
do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do agree that mobile devices are easier because they're smaller, I mean, but it's also, it can be hard to put everything on these small screens. So designing a proficient and efficient UI is actually another big step that desktop developers should learn to do in order to go for mobile.
It reminds me a lot actually of the early days of computing, where you had to be more worried about memory because computers had less power and had less RAM and less disk space. And we've kind of gone full circle, and now we've got these devices in our hands. In fact, I have not one but two devices in our hands. They are restricted, so you're very correct there that it is about becoming more efficient. We get lazy on desktop. Oh, it doesn't matter how much RAM we use, but on a mobile device, and there are a lot of rules in mobiles as well that there aren't on. We used to in Windows being able to do what we like, you know, put files anywhere. We don't care, but on mobile, no. You're playing by the rules of Apple, Google, and all the rest of them. So there's no doing things your own way. Follow their rules, or you're not in the App Store, and you're not your device is going to be impaired, and nobody wants your app running the battery down or, you know, crashing all the time.
Good.